Aeons, the most powerful things known to the Honkai Star Rail universe. A collection of sentient beings so powerful that they are responsible for the very power system and rules that we play by. They are the path pavers for our path striders. But how powerful are they? How do they work? And where do they come from? Well, a lot of this is yet to be seen, and we still have a ton of gaps in our network of information, but what if I told you that the Aeons aren't as strong as you think they are? And Acheron's goal of destroying the Aeon of Nihility IX isn't so out of reach. In a past video, I made my claim that the Aeons are the Honkai from Honkai Impact 3rd. Since we know that they share a universe and the whole deal with the imaginary tree in the literal Hoyoverse. But I want to refine this a bit further, because in the wake of new information, it's only natural to make a few tweaks here and there as time goes on. And I think we may have overestimated some things, and the Aeons might not be as strong as we think they are. So without further ado, this is the Aeons are weak? Okay. So let's go over just about everything we know about the Aeons. We know that someone or something can spontaneously ascend to Aeonhood. We know what some Aeons were before ascending, and some we have no clue. We have no idea what the conditions are for someone to ascend to Aeonhood, but on the other hand, we do know what led up to Nanook's ascension to become the Aeon of Destruction. It was the Machine Emperor's War with Rupert I and the Sworn Disaster where Tazeronth went against 7 other Aeons and nearly won. 2 events that nearly caused the destruction of the entire universe that not enough people know about. Should I make a video on that? I feel like that's a problem, that so much stuff isn't known that should be. I mean, 75% of the player base doesn't know who Oswaldo Schneider is, but you guys do! Anyway, these 2 catastrophic events that plunged half the known universe into war of quite literally Aeonic proportions led to the deaths of 2 Aeons and the rise of Nanook. Now, what we can learn from this is that Aeons are not invulnerable and can in fact die. Ouroboros of the Veracity quite literally ate itself to death trying to consume the ever-replicating propagation. Something that tells us that even if an Aeon represents a concept, they can still perish via that same concept. Meaning that Nanook can be destroyed, Noose does not know everything, Lon can be hunted, and the Abundance can't heal everything. Now, that may be obvious at first glance, but when Herta refers to her Aeon as all-seeing presence, things get a bit confusing. But I think she's just being respectful here because she is entirely aware that Noose has to ponder things. You'll notice that mostly everyone who follows a path will often glaze their Aeon. And that also has a purpose, but we'll get to that later. Because sometimes Aeons have intersecting concepts, and it is a fact that the 2 cannot coexist, so one will destroy or assimilate the other, like we've seen with Xipe, the Harmony, and Enna the Order. However, this is where things get strange, because power can be drawn and accessed from a dead Aeon. We've seen this from Sunday, and we've seen this from the Astral Express, of course, because Akavili has been dead this entire time. Yet the Express can still function and even visit places Akavili never did. We are also slowly getting hints and crumbs on the subject of Aeon revival, because the followers of the Beauty are planning on reviving their fallen Aeon, and Fushuan believes this to be possible, even though the Knights of Beauty believe Indrilla has merely disappeared. Personally, I don't know why they want beauty to be eternal if the concept of beauty is something fading and impermanent, like a flower blooming for a limited time. But then again, if they do revive Indrilla, the cycle would be death, revival, which would also be similar to a flower blooming around the same time every year, then closing back up and blooming again next year? Anyway, point is, a fallen Aeon can be revived through the combined efforts of their followers. So in that way, an Aeon never dies if there are still those walking on its path. Which brings me to why people who follow a path glaze their Aeon. It's because the power source of an Aeon is their followers. If the followers can revive an Aeon or even draw on the power of the Aeon after the Aeon has passed, that means the power source isn't the Aeon, it's the followers. This is why the Aeons create Emanators and why Aeons like Nous create the Genius Society, or why Lon entrusts the Arbiter Generals with powerful blessings. The Aeons are not omniscient or omnipresent or even all-powerful. They need the support of their followers to keep themselves alive. The more people who fervently follow a path, the more powerful the Aeon becomes. This is exactly why the propagation was so disproportionately powerful compared to the other 7 Aeons it fought against. Because it didn't require people to follow its path, it simply replicated itself infinitely to multiply its own power. So the only way to defeat Tazeronth was to defeat the Swarm, and that is why it was near impossible. The propagation was fueling itself. But I have more evidence for Aeons taking power from their followers. Because as I've said before in other videos, Nous created the Genius Society to learn and study things in its stead, and the Emanators are those who study things that Nous is largely unaware of. The first of which has been right in front of us this whole time, with the Genius Society portraits having data strings flowing from them into Nous, so that's pretty obvious at this point. But with the 2 Emanators of erudition that we know about, they both study things Nous would have no knowledge of. Let me explain. Herta has already cracked the code on what Nous is pondering, asking it what is divinity in reference to how Aeonhood works and how ascension works. She's even studying Aeons through the simulated universe, so Nous being curious made her an Emanator because she is diving into a subject it doesn't know about. And Dr. Primitive specializes in studying evolution, a subject that is so shrouded in mystery that we in real life aren't even sure how it works or if it even exists. And Nous is a computer, so it's not like it can relate to a fleshy creature that undergoes evolution anyway. So I think it's safe to say how Nous calculates who to make an Emanator out of. Lon, in similar fashion, is a single entity and cannot be in all places at once. So to hunt more efficiently, he created the spirits that the Arbiter Generals wield. He also has given them access to his Lux Arrow, because under dire circumstances, the Shenzhou Alliance can call on Lon to strike a target with a Lux Arrow. And for clarification, what Fei Xiao is doing here is something like a Lux Arrow, but it's not even close to as powerful. If a Lux Arrow were to hit the Shenzhou Luofu, there would be no more Shenzhou Luofu. The only outlier here seems to be IX, who seems to target people at their lowest and reinforce that nothing matters. So in a nutshell, IX spreads depression in order to survive. Every Aeon seems to feed off of their own concept and the use of their power. This is why they create Emanators and don't mind Pathstriders drawing on their power. It's a cycle. And since Aeons can control how much power they grant their Emanators, it's only natural that the more dedicated to a path the Emanator is, the more power they get to wield. This is why someone like Zephyro can blow up galaxies, because he thinks destruction is the most beautiful thing in existence. His dedication to destruction far outweighs someone like Fantilia, who relied on the abundance power to fight us. This also depends on the opinion of said Aeon, because IX couldn't care less how much power Acheron gets to wield. The Aeons also have to have a relative amount of caution, because if they give too much power to an individual and take it away, that could kill the person, like we've seen with Aha with the worm. For those who don't know, Aha gave the entirety of his power to a worm on a whim because he thought it was funny, and then took it away when he got bored, and the worm kind of just spontaneously combusted. Rip the greatest known Emanator of all time. That's also something not enough people know about, but that's besides the point. Okay, so with all of this in mind, I believe this information reveals how vulnerable the Aeons truly are. These gods of the Honkai Star Rail universe are nothing more than entities begging for prayers, offering their power to anyone willing to have faith in them, fearing the day that their followers abandon them. Because even if they themselves die, their path will live on as long as people still walk on it. But the second they are forgotten, they fade from existence and truly perish entirely with no hope of revival. So the way to take down an Aeon isn't to fight an Aeon directly, but to take down or convert their followers first, thus weakening the Aeon's power and influence. And without the prayers and the faith, the Aeon falls. This is how even one of the more powerful Aeons, IX, can be destroyed. Instead of fixating on the nothingness and pointlessness of fighting a black hole, perhaps the answer lies in ignoring its existence. Remember how I said Aeons are not impervious to their own concepts? If everyone were to ignore the existence of IX, even its emanators like Acheron, IX could possibly cease to be by its own rules. Now, when you think about it that way, if the Aeons are only as powerful as their followers make them, are they really that powerful at all? In truth, the Aeons are weak? I'll leave you to think about that. From an unserious theory to one of the more serious theories I've ever cooked up, as you can see, I like to keep you guys on your toes. Because you're only gonna see game-breaking theories that shatter the universe like this right here. I've been suspicious of the Aeons for a while, but I think it's time we reconsider who's really in charge here. And that would be us. I mean, it would be a really positive message for the game, no? Also, a very ho-yo message to send in my opinion. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.